This will be part 2 of Mr. Bill's boiler replacement. So what you're looking at is the footprint of the old boiler. Boiler Busters was kind enough to infill it with all the old brick and refractory material that was in the boiler, and so we won't have quite as much fill to bring in. So we're going to be filling that all up with concrete, getting an elevated pad of some kind to get this new boiler perched up on. So now that we can get in here a little bit, you can see this is the old 4-inch connection. So we're going to split this elbow off, put a new elbow, come back down, and that'll tie into the new boiler piping. This is the old equalizer that went down to the bottom of the boiler, and that's a 4x2 elbow, and we're probably going to maintain that. We're going to put it, use it as a drip, so we're just going to use it for a drip for this old header, which is going to stay there, and our new header will be down here at this level. And we're going to do a new dropped header on the boiler, and it's going to then be piped over into that 4-inch, and it's I guess you can see we're going to have kind of a double header on there. Over here is the old boiler return trap, remnants of the old steam boiler days, and up above here, this was the main vent that actually served as a vent for the entire system, and it has a float in there so that it will shut if the water ever gets up into it that high. This purpose of this was also, if the water got up too high, it would open steam, and steam pressure would get in and push the water back down into the boiler. This was what they used to do when it was coal-fired, and sometimes the boiler would get too much pressure for the condensate to return. So they came up with this system. I think we're going to take all this out. We're going to be running this system at less than a pound pressure. So I don't think any of that stuff's going to be needed. Now down here you see the double check valve set up, and that again is remnants from that old boiler return trap. Comes across. That's an old 2.5-inch valve which actually still works, but I'm thinking we may not be able to save any of this return piping, because this pipe here is a 2.5-inch return that came around, and that actually needs to be a wet return. Well, our new boiler is going to have a lower water line, so that will make that a dry return, which we don't want. So we're going to be creating a false water line configuration of tubing in this area to get that return full of water, and then it'll all tie back into the old, or into the new return at the bottom of the boiler, which will be over here on this side. So you can see there's some old venting. I installed that a few years ago, and there were several crossover traps in this system, and I went through and took them all out and put in these Gorton vents. So the entire system is vented with Gorton. This old main vent here, I don't even know for sure if it even comes into play anymore. But over here, we may be adding a vent or two, get rid of this old vent here, and maybe adding 1 or 2 Gortons in that area. Combustion air, we got to get combustion air into this. We're probably going to use the upper pane of that window see if we can create a couple of air vents into this room. There's the old flue, the old boiler, and it just goes into the brick chimney. It looks like oh man, probably a 14-inch flue. I'm not sure what the flue size on this new boiler is going to be, but it's probably going to be every bit of that. These water heater vents we're probably going to leave in place just because I don't want to get into it. Alrighty. So that's kind of an overview of the boiler after it was removed. So we're going to come in here and patch all this concrete, and we'll pick up at that point. Very good. Thank you very much.